Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about the struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests, because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmidt. Today, I'm bringing on a very special guest to talk about something that I don't have a ton of experience in, so I want to get some advice from him as well. So I hope you find a huge amount of value in it, as much as I hope to find some great value in it. So welcome to Raul Hernandez Ochoa of Do Good Work. So Raul is a husband, father, and growth strategist, helping founders increase performance, serve more clients, and scale profitability without overwhelm. I love that last part. It is key. It's definitely why I got into doing what I do as well, because so many leaders, they try to scale and they just do more.
It's everything all at once at the same time. What do you do?
Absolutely. I think we were just talking about that before we started.
Well, Kristina, thanks for having me. I'm energized to be here with you.
Excellent. Well, I'm very happy to have you on. So before we jump into what you do, let's talk about your first two roles as husband and father. So tell us about you. Tell us about your family.
Well, right now it's around noon Pacific time. So today around 5:45, maybe 6 o'clock, my son and I usually, we may not know, run around our island downstairs for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. I kid you not. We do that more often than I'd like. And I do get my steps in. It is about a mile. That boy can just run. And then my daughter she's 1. So she likes to follow along, but I carry her. And it's been that's comprising a lot of my life right now. And it's fun. I don't know what else to say. It's a great journey.
That is so much fun. I used to, when my son was a little bit, my kids are pretty young too, so they're 5 and 8. But when he was younger, we used to play the floor is lava. So we would be jumping. I may have been standing on my countertops a couple of times.
Hey, whatever you got to do.
It was fun, and I felt like I got my steps in.
That is part of the benefit as well. I promised myself that I would never run a marathon unless my kids told me they wanted to run a marathon with me. I think this boy is going to ask me that, and I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point.
Excellent. Well, you need to do it.
I did one. That's why I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, that was that much pain. I was like, oh crap! Like this is not. I'm in it to win it, but I think I can kick it with a half marathon. Anyways,
there you go. That's good plan. That's awesome. I know I used to be a runner. I don't have time right now with the kids, so I lift.
You speak my language.
There you go. All right. Well, that sounds like so much fun. I love that you're running around the counters with your son later. So you'll have to let us know how that went. But let's hear about your business. So tell us what you do.
I work with founders to help them scale through go-to-market, operations, leadership. I was talking to on a discovery call for one founder. Is like, do you do quote unquote therapy sessions? And this is out of full respect. I've had clients that are therapists, so full respect to the professions. Like, I'm not a therapist, but yeah, that happens a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. They're running teams, 8, 10, 15, 20, 50. Some are higher in terms of employee count, and they want to get to the next level. They want to do it with class, and they want to do it without stress, but they also want to do it with a sense of urgency. Mm-hmm. And I look at everything from operations, sales, and marketing to help them get there.
That is awesome. It's so needed too, because I think that sometimes we fail when we try to do it all ourselves, and we think, I should know these things. And sometimes that trips us up. So when we can bring somebody in like you that's going to cover all those bases and help just bring us to the next level, it's definitely, it takes some humility sometimes maybe. Or do you find that? Do you find your clients to be humble, or maybe
they have to be? Yeah, they have to be. There's no other way around it, because like a lot of the things here, it's not rocket science. It's not very complicated. It's very simple and straightforward. Obviously, there's just so much noise out there. Is how do you do this from someone who's been kicked in the teeth enough to figure out what doesn't work and what does work. And number 2, having that sense of accountability. This is why I hire people, or like I hire coaches, or I go to like very expensive masterminds or whatever. It's because like I know the stuff. I just need someone just being in the room, being in that energy, being there that someone's like, okay, I'm going to get reignited and get a little fire behind my back. Oh, hold on. Well, we use safe language here. But a
And you're
little higher
behind.
focus. Yeah, because the whole key is like, we can all do it. It's like same thing with like exercise and eating right. Like it's not complicated. It's really not. And I know people are going to like shame me on that too, but like the idea is it's basic. The key thing is we need others to do it with. We need someone to walk us down the line. We are human. We need other humans. We're not robots. We're not AI.
Absolutely. I know I always say we're not meant to go through this life alone. So bring in your people, bring in your team, because it's not just you. So very important. All right. So tell me about how did you get into this work? What's your motivation behind what you do?
What's my motivation? Oh man, that's a big question. I've always wanted to start since 2011, I started dabbling in entrepreneurship and building businesses and startups and whatever and incubators. It was 2015, 16, I built the first agency remote with a founder that I never met in person. This was back in Skype days, if you remember Skype.
I do.
RIP. But he was in Brooklyn. I'm in San Diego. We built this thing, got me out of my day job in finance. And it was fun. And we would build something that needed us to build a team and build leverage. And I liked being more of a technician at the time to learn more about the marketing world and cut my teeth on real clients. Mm-hmm. So we decided to split, still stay friends. He went to the wedding, so we're still friends to this day. Texted him last night, actually. And from there, I started serving other digital marketing agencies around the world, remote, everything remote. I built everything and supported remote. To the point where I had a mentor at a time tell me, hey, you should write a book. Because I've through mergers and acquisitions, helped one agency. We almost tripled in less than a year. And it's not like a guarantee. I'm not saying I'm going to do this for you. That takes strenuous amount of work and a lot of focus. But it's like, you should write a book. I'm like, why should I write a book? Who cares about writing a book? I wrote the book. And then from there, I supported other founders, agency owners. And then from there, I had amazing experiences to go in-house, help build a team to 50 million revenue a year. And then continue to serve and just seeing different aspects of leadership, mental models, approaches, how leaders approach their team, themselves, and others. Me doing the work, figuring out who I am, how I can achieve a better relationship with myself and others, and how that actually is a stem of leadership. And then doing everything remote and figuring out what's the best approach. And I have today a nice portfolio of clients. I have a client flying me out for their quarterly so I can support them in execution on that. Other clients mostly remote. And if you're listening to this, we're also starting up clients can fly in to San Diego and downtown, and we'll be at a high rise. And then from there, do a strategy session half day with you and your team. And you leave with 6 months worth of planning, and then we can support you asynchronously there. So that's the in-person is coming back, but I'm still remote.
So what was the motivation to get doing it all online before? Because a lot of people flip.
That's where I grew up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would always joke that my network online is stronger than my network here in the community, but that's just such a joke. I still have a good network here in San Diego, but the idea is online is where, in my opinion, that's where everything is at. Obviously, the human connection, breaking bread with clients, meeting people in the eyes, seeing what they actually are, seeing their behaviors, that's never going to go away. But I think it's definitely a competitive advantage to be that hybrid approach.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's good. All right. So let's jump into that online space. So trying to deal with leading a team remotely. So my background's manufacturing. So I was in person even through the pandemic. So I never had like my pandemic world vacation, whatever everybody else had, but whatever you call it. But I was in person all the time, and I have switched to doing a lot of online work. But leading a team online, like what are the differences between an in-person leadership style and like a virtual or remote leadership style?
Yeah, I would say so. This is good because one of my clients before 2020, they were all in person, and I was like, let's get you on Basecamp. Let's get you online. Let's do this remote. The team wanted to do remote, even though they could still meet in the office. And this was before we actually knew what was going on, before it went down. So I'm glad that we did that migration. But I think he had a competitive advantage as well because he can meet his team. Like you can roll up your desk or your chair, turn around, ask a question, come back. But now we have ChatGPT for that. But anyways, that's a joke. The difference, in all honesty, it's easier. So I'll say both. It's easier to lead in person. It's harder to lead in person. And then it's also a little bit more significant effort and intention to lead remote. Here's why. You have to over communicate to communicate normally online. Mm-hmm. Over communication is a key thing. And again, depending on the type of work that you do, like you don't want to, the legacy thinking, and I'll give you some different ideas about the legacy thinking, but legacy thinking of tracking people's hours, tracking people's mouses, that is idiotic. It's stupid. And I'll be out there, frame this, like it's dumb. Why? Because you don't care about what they were doing from 3 o'clock to 3:30. You care if the work was done or not. Mm-hmm. The best lesson I've ever learned was from a mentor and a dude here in San Diego. He's like, hey, he was very chill. So we were building the business, like really chill. Like, yo, if it takes you 3 hours to do it or it takes you 8 hours, I don't care. Go surf. Same pay, same whatever, same approach. And that was for me like an aha moment. That's interesting. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, when you're working with a team, if they're hourly, if you're paying them salary, sure, like figure that out and take care of everything, payroll, HR, great. But what matters really is like, what are the work that they're doing and what's the impact of the work? And AI and artificial intelligence is accelerating this. You can get 8 hours of work. I kid you not, I was with a client team yesterday. Today's Thursday. Yesterday, she was like, oh, dude, I'm doing all this admin crap. She didn't say it that way, but that's literally what it's admin crap.
What she meant.
I need to do all these things. It's like, why? It's wasting my time. Like, tell me about it. I kid you not, 15 minutes later, I did it. We did it all. Wow. We leveraged technology. Tell me, does that matter if I can leverage technology and it takes me 15 minutes to do about 3 to 4 hours of work? Or does it matter that we got the work done? Which one are you going to pay for? Which one matters more to your business? Getting the work done. I don't care how long it takes.
Yeah.
And that's the leverage and the competitive advantage with technology. And the remote work is a entry level to that deeper level problem that we're facing. Now, people say, I remember when the 21 happened and 22 happened and all this, people like on LinkedIn, you got to be hype and you have to have these crazy hooks for people to pay attention to you, which is ridiculous. But one of the hooks was like, we are doing daily calls with everyone. We're removing Slack from our workflow. And this was a guy, he had like 1,000 team members. I'm like, he was being very bold. Like, we need to get back to human communication. I think he's right. So there is a point to that. But the fact that he's going back to a daily phone call or daily something like that is wrong. And it's not forward thinking. It's actually why move forward into the future by doing things that you were doing 20, 30, 50 years ago. You got to leverage these technologies to what are the principles of work and how do we leverage technologies to execute those principles of work? If we were to look at all work, and I'm a frameworks guy. I focus on the frameworks, the principles, and from there I can transcend any tech, any future, whatever we need. Mm-hmm. The principle of work is communication, information, and action. Tell me where that doesn't exist. Communication. 2 people, a robot and a person, 2 robots, doesn't matter. Communication. Translates what? Information. Information is either stored for use today or stored for use tomorrow. Like right now, or I have to store it. You got to be safe, data compliant, whatever. And then from there, it's supposed to be action. You got to do something with it. If like you always hear like the thing about school or they always hear the thing about YouTube, like information without use is vanity or information. It's like, it's a waste of your time and life. Yep. So communication to transfer information, to take action. And your goal as a leader, if you're leading this and you're hearing this and you're agreeing with me, then your goal as a leader is to remove the friction between information and action. Your KPIs, how quickly can I get my team to understand, know, and do? Mm-hmm. Not about blundering, moving forward, or breaking things and moving fast and breaking things and breaking laws. No, it's about finding the culture pace of your team and seeing, okay, if I bring an idea on Monday, on let's say the 1st of the month, and it takes them until the 2nd of next month to get it done, is that really my cadence? Is that really the cadence that's acceptable to me? Am I tolerating that? Is that okay? Is that the workflow? Is it the complexity? I don't know the answer. The key thing is you got to find out the cadence and you got to find out how quickly get people work. And the faster you get to understand these 3 principles, the faster you can actually execute. And this is where we talk about people executing at a 10x speed versus other people who take a little slower. And this is, again, not a judgment call on the person, on the intellect or whatever. This is just the way work happens today. I'll stop there because there's a lot more that I can unpack.
Yeah. Okay. So that's super interesting because there is that gap of the old school, like where when you were giving the suggestion, does it take you 3 minutes or 3 hours or 15 minutes? And it's like, you just need the product done. So like in terms of like those gig things like Fiverr and all of that stuff where you can go get somebody to like do something for you, you're just paying for the product back. But like employees, like this hourly wage thing, like that's, I think people get stuck in that mindset that
it might get broken. I don't know. Like like if you look in the futuristic of what technology and artificial intelligence and robotics is going to do, it is going to force, because this is also like, if we talking pricing, like I work a lot with businesses. We look a lot at pricing, and there's different ways to do pricing. Hourly pricing is like, oh, that's your RIP. Do not do hourly pricing. That's like fat. If you're the thing that I say, if you charge by the hour, you will always be time poor, guaranteed. So that's number one. Number two, the other thing is like, okay, you can do value-based pricing based on the value of the impact of the work, or you can do product-based pricing, or you can do output-based pricing or usage. Like there's pricing is an art. Because it's all about perception, because money is a perception. Money doesn't exist. It's an idea that we all put together and we create value for something, right? So this same paradigm is happening with time, and it's happening with work, because like if you're attached to your hourly wage and you're saying, I'm going to do this thing for X amount of hours, especially depending on the type of work you do, like the industry's like, my wife's a nurse, like there's no way they're going to change this. They're like right now, 10, 20 years from now, maybe, I don't know, who knows.
Get robots to turn people over.
Probably this robot with warm hands. But it depends on your industry. But that paradigm of value perception in pricing is going to happen with time perception in employee and managerial work. So I don't know how far you want to get into the future there. I think we can focus on like the practicals today. But that is a key reality that we are going to face, and we're going to see policy and or legislation or issues happen, because there is going to be a time where a lot of the work that's being done right now is going to be and has been reduced down to a simple robot doing it. This doesn't mean that it's going to replace humans. Humans still need to be in the loop in very specific areas, but it does mean that low-level tasks or low-level activities or non-brain thinking activities that humans are doing right now are going to be replaced. And either your team is going to be more efficient because of it, or they need to upskill if they can. So that's a different conversation there.
Yeah. Okay. Super interesting. Okay. So let's go back to kind of what you were mentioning about, oh gosh, I can't remember what we were into, but I was going to ask you like for a practical translation, like you were saying, what's the cadence of the work? So what's a practical way that somebody can learn that? Like, is there a study, or is it just, rinse, repeat, experimentation to see, or like what?
You just do it. You just measure. You measure with your team. So literally on Monday, go in, get your team leaders, and then figure out, okay, cool. Based on our rocks or our goals for this quarter or next quarter or 2025 or whatever year you're planning for, what are you planning to do? Great. What's your next step for that? And then they tell you their next actions, because you're not a micromanager. You're empowering them. They tell you. Then you just measure and see. Now, here's where the pitfall happens sometimes. That you measure and see and you hope, but you don't check for accountability. You don't get progress reports. You don't create structures of accountability. In remote work, you need to have structure and accountability. And I don't care if you call me a control freak. I don't care if you call me a micromanager. I am neither of those, but you do need to have control. You, as an owner, as a founder, you need to know what is going on.
Yeah.
If you don't know what's going on, that's like shame on you. And that happens all too often, where employees or team members see like, hey, I can actually have this 30% wiggle room. And sometimes when that wiggle room happens, it's like there's entropy. And it isn't because you can't, like we just talked about it earlier. If it takes them 3 hours and they want to go for a run, or they want to go mountain biking, or they want to catch up and go pick up their kids from school, like, dude, absolutely. Like, do that all day as long as the work is done. I just need an update of what needs to happen. But we need to have accountability structures, either through asynchronous communication and or those weekly, bi-weekly, monthly touch points, like actual in sync calls. Like right now, we're in real time. We're talking here. It's two humans on the same call. Those kinds of things. Some organizations do that by meetings by death. So they just have meetings after meetings after meetings. No work actually gets done. So the answer is not more meetings. The answer is accountability structures asynchronously, either through updates. And I have a universal update that I use for teams. A certain cadence of the week, if it's a daily update, if it's a end of week update, if it's a Monday update, if it's a monthly update, whatever it is. But the whole idea is like, what are you working on? What is the KPI, or what are the key things that you're moving? And where do you need help in? Why? Because you can't escape. It's either done or it's not. You can't escape an input output, and you can't escape a number. And that's a key thing. And if you read, not that you have to be a fan of them, but if you read like Jeff Bezos' key things, like when he has communications with the team needs to come up with concrete answers or tangible metrics of measurement, not obscure observations of someone. Oh, that went well. Like that's obscure. Like define well. It's like, oh, we did 220% more than we thought. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So it's just being clear in your communications is the number one thing. So that is just a simple deep dive in communication.
Mm-hmm.
Communication can be done in, like we talked about, in person is one, real-time sync is two, asynchronous is three, and people get tripped up in the asynchronous. You want to have your communications channels very streamlined. Like the less channels you have, the better. Mm-hmm. I'll say that again for the people in the back. The less channels you have, the better. I don't know if you've ever been on a Slack Teams group or a Teams where you have like 108 different channels.
Yeah.
How are you going to get anything? You're not. There's no way. You got to have, and we can talk about structures there, but keeping lines of communication clean, asynchronous structures clean, a meeting cadence that is appropriate, not death by meetings. You got to make sure the work gets done. And then in person, either monthly, once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year, retreats, whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Then it's to information. Where are you storing information? How do you retrieve information? How do you get access to that information so that you can take action?
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So one big part that I stress in leadership training, just in general, is the building of relationships. So in person, when you're all in the office, like people pass by, they chat as they're taking their coats off, warming up their food at lunch, that kind of thing. So how do you fill those gaps in a remote team?
This depends on the culture of the team and the approach. Obviously, when you do those in a sync meetings, like if you do your Monday leadership meetings, your Monday all hands, I like to have an all hands meeting. Mm-hmm. For that reason, like the first 5-15 minutes are buffer time. How was the weekend? How are the kids? What's going on? If you have a meeting of 40-50 people, you can't do that, but you can do that in vertical niche team specific meetings. Let's say you have a dev team, you have your website team, and then you have your marketing team. Like you can do that with them, and then you can do an all horizontal leadership team meeting for them to all connect. Mm-hmm. You can also have different channels. Like one of the key things that I promote for my clients to have is a wins channel for everyone in the company to go in there and add a win. Mm-hmm. What was a client win? What was our win? Like a culture win for you and your family or for what you're doing, and also a client wins channel, because everyone needs to know that the work that they're doing is for a bigger purpose outside of themselves. It's a key fundamental human thing. It's called hope. Mm-hmm. So there's that. In person, obviously, definitely invest. It's expensive, but definitely invest for those retreats and or quarterly or leadership meetings. I think that makes a lot of sense. But it's how you communicate with people, right? Like I can send a voice message to a team member, and the first 15 seconds, I can share my personality just by being who I am on the voice message, and also get the communication done correctly. And then when they hear that, they can hear my tonality, they can hear who I am. They can also read it if they don't want to hear my voice. So you just leverage technology to do that. But you also have to be very over intentional and over communicative with your intention behind messaging, because sometimes depending on your leadership style, if it's really rough or very direct, sometimes it can feel like very cold and very harsh. So you got to make sure that you leverage technology to either do, if your team can't handle the text, do a video. Yeah. A video update. If your team can't handle, if you're like video sucks, like I don't look great today or I'm in my jammies, okay, do a voice. Like leverage it to what you need to empower your team. Because again, your number one thing is information to action.
Oh, that's good. I like thinking of that information to action thing, because sometimes you're like information float, like people.
Oh yeah. Great ideas that never get implemented.
Yes. So like making sure there's an action at the end of every meeting, all of that, or whatever communication, like clearly what is my call to action, if you want to use the marketing terms, like what am I supposed to do now? So it's good. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So question, I have a couple of clients that have hybrid teams. So they have some people in person and some people that are remote, and sometimes it's kind of back and forth. So would these same things sort of apply for a hybrid team, or is there even something different there that you would, or have you not done hybrids?
The beauty is that it works for in-person and remote. Obviously, the more in-person you have, you can lessen the, you can just do the all-staff meeting at the boardroom versus having to do it via Zoom or whatever you're using. But the nice thing is that this is principle-based, so it'll transcend regardless if you're fully remote or if you're hybrid. Obviously, I've only built and supported fully remote, but yeah, we met up in person. Yeah, we met up for coffee. Yeah, we met up for quarterlies. Yeah, we've done annual retreats. So the whole idea is these are principles. So the nice thing is like gravity, or at least I hope with gravity. Tomorrow, I'm not going to put my foot off the bed. I'm going to float up to the rooftop. It's going to be pretty standard.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So now you're going to give me some advice. All right. I just brought...
Okay.
I brought a virtual assistant on last month. So this is like my first in my little business, my employee here. I've run whole factories. So like I've had many employees, but this is virtual for me. So it's different. There's a bit of language barrier in there plus time. And so what sort of meeting cadence, like what would you recommend for like this style of work? Would it be the same exact sort of thing? Like currently, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I've got a morning meeting and a closing out meeting just for right now. I think I'll probably squeeze it down as we get more comfortable with each other. And then we use Basecamp. So I heard you mention that. So
I love Basecamp.
Yeah. So we communicate in that, like on the campfire area a lot. So like that's kind of our streams. So any recommendations for any changes I should be making?
No, I think to be honest with you, it really depends on the type of work that's being done and not that the importance work isn't there, but there's high urgency work that's either going to impact brand reputation, revenue, or work that's, hey, this is more back end, back office that you can handle and it's not going to be client facing or public facing. So it really depends on the urgency of the work, of how often you need to check in. Mm-hmm. The nice thing about Basecamp and whatever tool, like I've used it. The nice thing is you're creating an HQ. I call it an HQ because from there you want to have all of your metrics, mm-hmm. all of your initiatives, your action items, all of your, what I call your master brain, all of your information centered together to create truly a master brain. So it's like, how do I do this? Or how does this company do that? Yeah, your SOPs on there, your branding guides, mm-hmm. your docs, everything. And the key thing is easy access, and also use log access to people who don't need access to proprietary information, financial information, revenue, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you want to have that centralized there. And then from there, figuring out specifically, okay, you do a morning and evening meeting. Could it just be with a morning update and an evening update? That way, that person doesn't have to stay up until 6 a.m. Overnight or whatever, and they can still get their work done. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you do a touch base once a week. Obviously, in the beginning, you're still building relationship, and you're mm-hmm. also sharing how you like to work, how you like to communicate it. But it all goes down to what is the function of the job that's being done, being done. And the center is always trust. The center is always trust. There are specifically like trust stems great communication. From there stems insightful information shared back and forth to the right actions being done.
Mm-hmm. I'll agreed on that one. Awesome. Thank you. So I always like to run it by.
You're doing the right thing.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think it's like, you don't have to meet twice a day. I mean, but if you want to, that's fine.
Right now I am, just to make sure the flow of work is going. Like I think at first I was like scrambling to get her up to speed. So I was like throwing tasks one at a time. Now we actually have slightly longer projects. So we're expanding our time. So yeah, I'm quickly going to drop one of those, I think. But yeah, awesome. Okay, so what is exciting going on in your world? Anything you want to share? You mentioned the one thing, the come visit you for.
Oh yeah, so yeah, one of the so to work with me, there's different types of tiers and levels, but one of them that I'm doing, because I think this is very valuable, is to do a half day, like 2 half days during the year, just 1 half day in a year with your 6-month period. You fly in San Diego, literally in downtown, get access to a high rise where we can book a room and have a boardroom meeting there, and then work with you and your team to do like your executive level, high level growth initiatives in person. Plus also get to know your team, get to understand what the nuances are, and then also work with you as a founder, to see things that I can see that maybe might be missing, or reaffirm things that you had a hunch on but you didn't truly know. Mm-hmm. So there's that's going on there. Also testing something just for fun on. Every day I try to write, well, not every day, but most days I try to write a post or like a writing or a newsletter or whatever. And it takes me 15 to 20 minutes to do it. So right now I'm experimenting in public, and I am going live on LinkedIn, noon Pacific, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Fridays are for in-person meetups by the beach. If you're in San Diego, hit me up.
Wow.
But that's what I'm testing to do, because right now you're going to see a lot of deep fakes, a lot of fake posts, a lot of content that's just jargon. So right now I'm trying to really just build relationship with as many people as possible. And if for time that I'm already investing in writing, might as well just click record at the same time. So those are 2 big things there that I'm working on. Well, 2 simple things that I'm working on.
That's cool. And I love the idea of bringing people out to you just because it's like offsite for them, which if you're going to their offices, I feel like people get distracted. And so like the act of leaving their place, I think can really help. So I think,
and plus, who doesn't love to go to San Diego? I mean,
exactly. Yeah. Beach day. Make sure that they're over a Friday so they get your Friday meetup.
we will do any day of the week except the weekend.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely have to check that out. So if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
The best place is the website dogoodwork.io. That's dogoodwork.io. IO is input, output. And you can hit me up on LinkedIn. You have the socials and the email there as well. And be more than happy to see what you're up to, see what your growth initiatives are.
Awesome. Well, Raul, thank you so much for sharing your insights, sharing your perspectives, and all of your experiences. I found it beneficial. I'm sure the listeners will find it beneficial as well. So thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. And to all the listeners, if you liked what you heard today, please share it with a friend, subscribe, leave a review, because again, that's how we get the word out. That's how we get more people working to improve their cultures, which is going to improve their business and their lives. And we will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmidt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.